Hey everybody, this is Dave Cooper and we are in Oakland, California at Mighty Buildings. 3D home printing at its finest, not using concrete. Standing with me is Sam Rubin. Sam Rubin is the Chief Sustainability Officer here at Mighty Buildings and somebody that has a lot of input on what's going on around here. So Sam, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Really great to have you here. Especially, it's been just about a year since I appeared on your show. Yeah, that was our first interview when we came out of stealth mode. So really excited to have you back and kind of talk about where we've come in that time since.
Well, yeah, we were talking with Helen, right, from your team. In fact, I think we were sitting at a picnic bench somewhere in the middle of nowhere on our travels.
Indeed, yeah.
So Sam,
maybe New Hampshire or something.
I think we were, right? We were somewhere. Who wakes up and says, I'm going to work on 3D printing houses and says, this is a way forward, this is sustainable? Who does that?
Well, my co-founders. And so where the vision came from is originally the idea was a 3D printing pen that a couple of my co-founders worked on that did really well, was sold in Best Buy and other stores. And they're sitting here with this really cool technology and thinking, what big problem can we try and solve? And so looking around, we recognize that construction industry is really the last industry that hasn't embraced 21st century technology in order to unlock efficiency. And that means we're impacting housing and on track to have 1 in 3 urban dwellers impacted by housing scarcity by 2025, but also leaving money on the table. I mean, there's something like $1.7 trillion in revenue that's just not being realized every year because of that lack of efficiency. And so a huge opportunity to bring a new way of thinking into the space to really unlock that productivity, but do so in a way that's not trying to get rid of the legacy players or get rid of labor, but just really address the fact we don't have enough people to build. And so what we're hoping to do is really serve as a tool for the industry to do more with the existing labor force, while also attracting a new generation of workers who want to work with the latest and greatest in technology.
You know, that's key, right? How do we get more done with the existing skilled labor force that we have? Because the youth is not coming into the industry and the trades the way they used to. We're going to get into all of this. We're going to walk through some of this, the home that's sitting here. We're going to show you some of the 3D printing. We're going to show you some robots on the other side that are going to be doing some scanning as well. But first, we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Do you know why we go live on Twitch?
Because it's a great spot to be.
It is a great spot to be, and that's where all the young folks are, right? They're into this 3D modeling and BIM and virtual reality and all those fun things. So we also want to thank our sponsors, Forward Solutions Group and Howick. They're the reasons we're here today, putting up the sponsorship for us to come and showcase all the wonderful things they're doing. So thank you very much to Forward Solutions Group and Howick Ltd. If you're not familiar with them, please check them out. They've been a longtime sponsor for us and leading the way and getting us around, because it's so important that we showcase what you're doing and what others are doing, and that's thinking differently. And that hasn't happened in our industry for well over 100 years. So yourself, we were at Integra not too long.
They're doing great stuff over there.
We need to think differently if we're gonna meet this housing affordability crisis. Because if we were doing it right, we wouldn't be in the problem. We wouldn't have the problem we have right now.
Yeah, and same with also the climate crisis and the impacts of all that housing on that. So it really all requires new ways of thinking, and not just incremental change, but really wholesale rethinking of what it means to build. But to do so in a way that also taps into the amazing expertise that the industry already has and all those learnings, so that we can really bring that to bear and kind of help the entire industry move forward together.
And that's what we're all going to need to do, is collaborate and come forward together. You might be hearing it behind us. They're getting ready to actually move from the 3D printer, something that was just finished up over here. So that's going to get past us. Sam, let's talk about the construction a little bit. And we're going to show them as we start walking around here, you know, who came up with the concept to be able to use the material you use? Because it is not concrete.
It is not. It's a thermoset composite. So many people are familiar with Corian by DuPont and similar materials along those lines that have been used as countertops and claddings since like the 1960s. The material we've developed is that same class of materials, but we've developed a higher performance version. For example, our initial version of the formulation had a Class A flame spread. I think Corian only has Class B. Still a great material, but not as many use cases. And more importantly, what we've done is we've created a unique formulation and unique production process that allows us to take that material and put it into a printable gel form that we can use with our Big G printer here and print using light, and then also embed continuous fiber reinforcement as well.
So the composite and the material is completely different. And what I really found amazing, we were talking about earlier, is the dentistry. Why don't we let this come by us here as we talk? So tell us what they're doing right here. What is this panel and what was going on? And that's right. So you can just step over here.
Yeah. So this is this panel that you're seeing here is a part of our new Mighty Kit system. And so it just finished printing not too long ago. It's resting because the curing process continues even after the lights turned off. So we let that sit while that finishes. And so they're moving it from the printer over to our robotic finishing cell, and we'll hopefully here get a chance to see it undergoing 3D scanning, because we have a lot of integrated quality control in the printer itself in terms of thermography and other tools that tell us what's going on in the print in real time. But then we also do a secondary quality control check in the cell here where we do a 3D scan to make sure of the printed object. To make sure that it matches with the file that it was based on, while also creating a digital model of the physical object to create tool paths. Because one of the really cool things about our material is that even though it's really strong, I mean, the fiber reinforced version has a strength profile similar to reinforced concrete, but 4 times less weight, 4 times better insulation, and it's soft enough we can mill it with CNC heads that are normally used for metals like aluminum and copper. So that means we can leave the raw print, which some people really love. We can mill it smooth, so it's a stone-like finish that really highlights the fact that it is effectively a non-silica synthetic stone. Or we can do things like make it look like brickwork, make it look like siding. And more practically, it allows us to do a print and then really trim to sub-millimeter tolerances for assembly, which is really key. So we're able to ensure that we're getting exactly the tolerances we need for that on-site work, because these panels are a part of a new kit system that's going to be assembled on-site versus these volumetric modules that are delivered fully finished.
So let's go back to the strength on this. I mean, when we talk strength, this system can print midair, yes?
Indeed.
Was it 13 feet, 14 feet?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly 14
unsupported
feet structurally, non-supported span. So it's like the dentist, you're curing it as it's printing it in midair.
Exactly.
It's the most amazing thing in the world.
The exact same concept. So it hardens quickly enough that
the blue light.
Yeah, exactly. Hardens quickly enough so you get that strength, but not so much that we don't still get full chemical cohesion between the layers. So we still, even though it's layer by layer and you still do have that strength immediately, you still get a monolithic object at the end of it. So you don't have, like if you were to look at a cross section, you don't see the lines going through. That it's just a single solid piece.
It's a solid piece. And with the solid piece, even the one that's lifted here, you're doing the digital twin. What is the accuracy of the printing of these?
Sub-millimeter. Like
sub-millimeter.
It's like very because we're doing 4mm layers.
Not noticeable to the naked eyes, what you're saying.
Yeah, like the quality is just amazing. Our technical team they're brilliant. I get the easy job. Most of what I do is strategy and talking about it. They've got the hard work, and they're the ones that make us really look good.
So as you're pulling all this together, and then you're piecing these different parts together for the structure, how much waste is there with this?
So we're eliminating over 95% of the waste you would normally see in traditional builds. So majority of 3 to 5 pounds per square foot. Because at the end of the day, we print exactly what we need. So we're not dealing with, we've got a 10-foot 2x4, I only need 8 feet. And I'm just going to toss those 2 feet. We're really just able to make sure it's exactly what's needed. And then for the parts that we don't print, we order prefabricated, pre-cut, so that we're able to just plug and play, and that way also minimize waste.
Sure. And you're doing that quite a bit with the pre-cut, prefabricated bath pods. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. So not everything's 100% 3D printed.
Correct. And so the units we're delivering right now, because of how novel our technology is, and just the reality is that the building, I mean, as we all know, the sad reality is the building code is written in blood. So for us, it's been really important that we're moving at a pace that works for building regulators and really fully demonstrates its safety and makes them feel comfortable. So you'll see as we look at some of these units, these initial ones, it's the 3D printed portion is the curved wall, and then the rest of it is a traditional steel frame box. And our next version of our technology is this Mighty Kit system. That's a panel system that's going to form the entire exterior wall system of those new units. And then next phase after that, we'll eliminate any structural steel framing. Then it's basically, so we're moving iteratively, just to make sure we're able to get approval as early as possible in the process, get the units on market, demonstrate the viability, while we continue to build out our certification portfolio to unlock further use cases, including moving into multi-story within the next couple of years.
Why not print the whole building?
And we do have the ability to do a fully printed prototype, and people, if they go to our YouTube channel, can actually see a video of us printing the entire shell. And so it is an option we have. To unlock all those use cases from a regulatory standpoint requires months and months and months of testing that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we are undergoing that, but we're doing it at a pace that makes sense with the deployment of it more broadly at scale.
All right, so why don't we go for a walk over here and let's go check out where the printer is. So to the left of us here, we have, this is your demo model. And I think with the It's funny, we got people.
Yeah, no, we've got as I mentioned the multi-story. So one of the things we're doing is that we're launching an RFP shortly for that process, and it looks like we're giving one of the architecture teams that are potentially bidding on that a bit of a tour. But I will be moving them along shortly because I don't think they got the memo.
That's okay.
But that's all right. But this is what happens when you have an operating facility.
Well, it is an operating facility. There's a ton of stuff here. So we're going to come back to that. Let's go look at the structure over there, and then you know what? We'll let Chris go past over this way. Chris, let's go back over here and let's show what we have. So you can see on the right side here and on the left, you have a ton of product here, and we're going to get into what some of the materials are. But I think, Chris, if you go all the way over where we were going to go before, and we're going to walk around this, and then we're going to get into the details of the build on this, I think we'll be in good shape. And then we'll come back to the printer side of it. But business comes first. Listen, the reality of it is, you have people that are here to look at your product and check it out. So
yeah, and that particular one, it's very exciting because as I mentioned, we're actively in the process. I think we're releasing it next week, an RFP to help us take it to multi-story, well, single-family homes as well as townhouses, and then eventually low-rise multifamily apartments for infra projects and vertical density.
So right now you're just doing one story.
One story for now, but very excited for that next phase.
So let's just look at some of the exterior of this. So is this a cladding, or is this the actual printed material?
So this is a cladding. This is, I believe, this material is from Clad, which is a Japanese company. Does cementitious wall claddings. Awesome product, really enjoy it. They've got fire rated versions and everything. And I believe this unit here, which this other half is right there, is going to be going to Burlingame.
It's going to Burlingame.
Yeah, so these units are just waiting on the permits.
And ready to go.
Yep, just waiting on the permits to come through and be completed, and they'll get them out the door, just like we had one go down to Moore Park down in Ventura County.
Chris, why don't you walk over here? I know we're changing things up a little bit. Why don't you just show in there? So this is what a finished unit looks like. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and so this is going to be a bedroom, and when we go through the other unit, you'll get to see what that looks like. Fully finished it out with the floor, with the paper and everything removed from the floors. And
great, perfect. I love it. So we're gonna let's walk over here, and I want to show the actual structure and how these are pulled together. And we're going to show that one with the bath pod, because you're using offsite construction, not just only in your facility, but you're working and collaborating through the supply chain for more and more products. So.
And for us, it's about how do we create that efficiency and understand where does it make sense to recreate the wheel and where does it not. And frankly, with bathrooms, there's some wonderful vendors here in the US as well as globally that do a great job of making beautiful bathroom pods. I mean, we could have built this bathroom, and you'll see the quality in that unit, what we're getting. But that would take probably 600 to 800 man hours. With this, it takes us an hour or two to place it in
on the production floor here. So so I'm saying this is still, I mean, we're using metal studs, right? So you have the metal studs, you got all your waterproof backer board there. We see the PEX piping and the plumbing is already run. You literally build the frame, right? And then you just crane in the bathroom.
Exactly.
Pipe. And it's ready to go. You got the wiring that you have to do the connections. Your vent pipes are all in place where they need to be.
And what's really great about it is the wet wall. We then have the kitchen on the other side, so we're able to consolidate all of our MEP really into one wall. So all of our utilities come out at the exact same spot. So it really makes that on-site installation much easier as well.
It does, for sure. And here's a great look at what you got going on here. So here we have the metal stud. We have the steel framing. I mean, it's
heavy. So this, I mean, these are designed to survive an earthquake anywhere, but like one spot in like the San Juan forest or San Pablo forest, I forget where, but uninhabited location. So they're very, very robust. I mean, heck, they're almost built like ships.
And then what you have is, this is the 3D printed piece on the end here. You can still see the steel frame and how this actually sits within I guess it's the U bracket, so to speak, of the steel that's here.
Exactly. And these are all UL listed as well. Can't quite see it here, but they all do have the UL mark on them.
Sure.
They are the world's first technology certified under the UL 3401 standard.
Well, they're first. They're probably a first of many for you guys, right? And then, so let's talk about it. So this was printed probably vertically, the way it's looking, the way the lines.
Yeah. So there's printed there, and then we bring it up on the side here and place it in. We fill it with closed cell polyurethane foam.
Okay.
And with this, we're able to get a R21, just under R21 for the panel itself, without any additional installation required.
Without any additional.
Well, so including what's there, but with no need for like exterior additional cladding on that in terms of insulation.
And then help us walk through between the exterior of this steel and this wall. What are you packing this with, and how does that work for the finished product?
Yeah. So for this one,
this interior.
Well, yeah, this is actually this is the interior wall. It's going to connect there with the other side for the dry one. But yeah, so we're just using traditional. I believe probably XPS. Just traditional installations and finishing materials at that point. And that also, along with, as I mentioned, being to address the regulatory side of things.
Right.
To me, it also highlights one of the really awesome things about what we do, which is we play well with others.
Yeah.
Like one of the things, even though people are a bit surprised that it's not 3D printed at this point in time. For me, it's when we're looking at the broader industry, it's really great because it does show that ability that we can combine it with existing materials and existing technologies. Yeah. It's not an either or proposition. It's really a both and. It's something that we can really highlight. And as we move forward and get to the point where we're really doing product, market, and design agnostic production as a service, really creates whole new opportunities for what we can be bringing into reality.
Yeah. So now that they're not here, let's show this 3D the printing machine here. This is where they just moved out of the piece that went behind us.
Yeah, and then we'll see that over in the finishing cell here momentarily.
All right. So this is actually the printer machine. So what I'm seeing here is we have rails on both sides. This big piece
thing
here,
moves back and forth, up and down.
Back and forth, up and down. And how mobile is this? Will it always be a factory product, or
this version of it certainly will. In the future, we may have smaller, more mobile versions. In fact, one of the things that we're working on right now is a micro factory concept.
Okay.
So where instead of having a really, really big printer here and a really big robotic cell over there, that we'd actually combine them into a single modular cell. Okay. So that we could then, each cell can produce, I believe, with the design, 200 to 400 units. Sure. So it's, depending on the needs of a location, we can scale up or down just by increasing the number of cells, and also even further reduce the footprint required to scale up a factory. Because here we're in 50,000 square feet. We can currently generate about 300 units a year, working to get to 1,000, so 1.2 million square feet of production out of this 50,000 square feet of floor. But with the micro factory concept, it really unlocks whole new possibilities. Because again, we could set up
like a neighborhood somewhere and just
or like where we were in Redwood City, we were in a third of a warehouse in 7,500 square feet. With the micro factory, we'd be able to actually expand that production and out of that generate hundreds of units.
Well, imagine if you could build them and out the door, as soon as they're done, they go and onto a foundation somewhere right there on site.
Yeah, and so the idea of a flying factory, and particularly as we work more and more with builders and developers on larger projects, there's huge opportunities there. Yeah, for sure. And so one of the things you're seeing here is that we've actually just recently upgraded the printer. Okay. So if you notice on top there, that little shiny spool. Yeah. So one of the latest things that we've done is we've actually
up on the top there, right?
above the gantry.
Like a yarn thread for a sewing machine.
Exactly, and in many ways it is if you're using a fiberglass sewing machine. Right. And so what our team has developed is the ability to do continuous fiber reinforcement. So we're actually able to lay that fiberglass into the material in real time as it's being printed.
So the material is being built with fiberglass to give it more structure and strength.
Exactly.
And bond it together, which is already, we know, waterproof and durable, right?
Both antimicrobial, insects don't like it. So yeah, really, really robust material.
All right, so I want to stay here for a minute, and we're going to actually see this other robot in action, the piece that they took out of here and placed over there. Let's talk about how does the material and everything come into this machine. I saw the blue vats. We can come over there.
Well, and if you want, we can step to the side real quick, and you can actually see that.
Oh, here you go. Right.
Yeah. Perfect. So these. So currently, we're producing. This material is produced at our facility in Moscow, which is where all of our R&D is. We're actually in the process of bringing it here stateside, just to streamline that supply chain. And so it arrives in barrels. They get placed over here.
Let's walk down and take a look.
Yeah. So they get placed over here into the supply area, where they're pumped up into a hopper, and then from the hopper, they're then pumped into the machine itself.
Okay. Got it. And then when that barrel is done, this is on a crane. You just pick it up,
put it in the next one, bring over and then bring over the next barrel, so it's ready to go next time.
In a barrel of this stuff, how much do you get out of one barrel, like as far as the build goes? Do you know? I mean, because the beads are thin.
The beads. We're talking about 4 millimeter. So I think it's a decent amount of drums for a full size for an entire house.
Sure. And what kind of power does it take? I'm looking at the electrical unit here.
Not as much as you'd think. I mean, we're able to run on a relatively pretty low compared to a lot of traditional. And one of the nice things about being in California, we're 100% renewable energy here.
Right.
Just solar, just wind, so not even large hydro.
Sure.
So carbon free.
So let's talk about that. What about structurally with this process of building? I know it's on steel frame. You are in California. You have earthquakes. You got hurricanes. You got pretty much
thankfully no hurricanes, but we do get some crazy wind events.
All right. So you get some hard wind events. So with all those natural things that are coming through, especially it's one of the stringent building codes in the country.
Part of why we're here.
So talk to me about that and how this holds up with that.
Yeah, and that's why we one of the major reasons we started in California, along with the fact that the housing crisis is particularly acute, is the fact that if we can build here, we can build pretty much anywhere. Right. So we've been working really closely with UL as our primary certification partner, and that's part of how we helped them develop the UL 3401 standard, because they brought together, and if you know UL, they've big on silos, but they brought together 7 different internal departments to work on our project to figure out what does it look like to evaluate this unique technology for this use case. Right. And we chose UL instead of ICC or Atmo or AirTech and one of these other ones as our initial partner, because not only does UL have over 100 years of building life safety, but they also have some of the world's leading additive manufacturing experts. And so that made them uniquely situated to understand the technology and to really figure out what does it look like to show code compliance. Right. And so with our initial formulation, went through a series of tests with UL. And then with California, we actually work with the state under the factory built housing program that's run by Housing and Community Development. Okay. And so what that means, and that oversees all offsite construction in the state of California. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is because, as you can see with these models, you can't really inspect them when they're on the ground, once they're on site. Yeah. So what that means is like any inspections have to take place here in the factory. And so what that also means is that we're also needing to do code approval before we get to a site-specific location. So we work with the design approval agency that's certified by the state of California. And the one we work with is actually a third-party planner for over half the cities in the state.
So no different than the modular world's doing, right?
Exactly the same thing. We're just using a little bit of different technology. Right. But as it does with other prefab and traditional modular, really helps streamline that process, because when we get to the local authority, they don't need to do the code review. They're just doing site foundation, site work, and then the plan check. Right. So it really streamlines that process, even beyond the streamlining that's already occurred for accessory dwelling units. Process and a build, how long does it take to print out and build one of these units? So we can be producing one of our current units, our mods, in about a week or so. In about a week. Yeah, so once with entitlements in hand, we can go from a blank slate to fully finished in 4 to 6 weeks. In 4 to 6 weeks. And potentially, and if we can get all the subs lined up, potentially even quicker. On site. Yeah. Right. Because one of the things we also offer is a full turnkey experience for our customers. Mm-hmm. So we do sell just the units, but almost all of our customers have taken advantage of having us do the entitlements, do the site work, coordinate all the GCs, coordinate all the subs, coordinate the installation and delivery. And so our team is involved every step of the way, where there's the primary point of contact, so that the homeowner is not having to go to this person, go to that person. We got one point of contact, they talk to us, we take care of it. Our team handles the installation and delivery. In fact, so you handle everything from moving to the foundation. Now, will these sit on typical 4-foot walls, full foundation? So it depends on the site. We've designed them to go on about 7 or 8 different types of foundations, everything from helical piers to slab on grade. And most of them have been slab on grade to date, but yeah, really designed to go on whatever's needed. And as you can see, I mean, that part of that's nice steel frame that we have in the bottom makes it easy to play well with a lot of different forms. So why did you choose the material steel and metal framing versus using any wood material? Yeah, so one of the things is the fact that we can get pre-cut steel exactly the way we need it, so that when it gets to us, we just bolt it together. Yeah. And we also know that our vendor, when they're doing that, they're able to reuse any excess and recycle it. So that's part of our sustainability too, is even the parts we don't produce, we want to make sure that they're done with as little waste as possible. Over here. I think they're getting that robot moving now as well with that piece that was there. So the sustainability side is, how important is sustainability, carbon-free future to mighty buildings? It's critical. Driving force. Yeah, it's critical, and it's not just critical to us, but frankly, from our perspective, it's critical to having a thriving human society. Right. I mean, the reality is that the construction of buildings accounts for roughly 11% of all global emissions. Right. Building energy use is another 30% of all global, or 29% of all global emissions. And the fact is, those figures don't even account for the global warming potential of the waste generated during construction at end of life. So that means that housing and buildings are single-handedly one of the largest contributors to the climate crisis. Yeah. And so if we're going to build all the housing, the billion-plus houses we need globally to address the housing crisis, if we're not also addressing the climate crisis and doing so, That's not really going to be a world any of us want to live in. And so for us, it's imperative that as we're unlocking that productivity, that we're doing so in a way that, at least for initially, mitigates those climate impacts, but longer term actually takes that house and what we're doing and turns it into a tool to fight against the climate crisis, and really move beyond sustainability into resilience and regeneration. And so we're actively looking at things like carbon capture paints, also looking at what might it look like to do carbon sequestration, not only in our foundations, but also in our material itself. We're looking to develop a more version of our material that can be truly circular, so that we can recycle it end of life and turn it and automatically reuse it. Right now, we're able to grind it up and use it as filler. But and with our new material, we've actually already reduced our carbon by about 50%. But we're kind of like an electric vehicle, so we're still higher than we want to be for now. But we're able to pick that up through the nearly zero waste that we talked about, the 95% waste diversion, as well as the fact that we can be 15 to 40% below comparable quality stick built and other homes. So that allows us to incorporate on-site solar, on-site storage to allow the homes to be zero net energy, which results in another 5 tons of carbon a year in savings.
I mean, that's a huge number. But when we think of the number here in California, it's comparable, right? When you really think about it, right? Because a home this size, on-site built, is $500,000 plus all day long.
Exactly. And so and that's part of why our vision is long term to have a distributed network of mighty factories. So rather than being here in California and shipping around the world, because California, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to ship California construction costs anyway. Our vision is to have a network of these factories in areas where we have demand, where we have builder and developer partners, so that we're not only just creating housing for that market, but we're creating jobs for that market, and also taking advantage of the local economics so that our price points are going to be where they need to be for that market, and that we're not trying to come into somewhere like Michigan and with California prices, because that's just not going to work.
You have to get to a point where it's scalable, and that's what you guys are working through right now.
Exactly.
One is you have to get the approvals in place. And once you have the approvals in place and all the testing done, and then you can roll it out across the country.
100%.
Like you said, as opposed to right now, you're always fighting the blood code, as we want to call it, right?
And that's, I mean, I'd say it's less that we're fighting it. It's more that we're going slower than we might otherwise in order to make sure that we're fully addressing any and all concerns around that, because safety is so important to us.
There is that, but listen, any government agency, it's hard to make changes and get things through in the testing, and it slows us up. Not even just here, but in the
I mean, and this is it. We're broadly, But to that end, something we've been really good about is engaging with building officials as soon as we know we're going to have a project in their area, because we want to help educate them, help them feel comfortable, and some of that is education that any modular builder has to do around the factory built housing program and where the city's role begins and ends versus our role versus the states. And so there's definitely an education element that happens there.
You know what I think's great? I mean, I know he's getting ready to get that thing going there, but there's a lot of people coming and going in the pink visitor jerseys that are really interested in this. And again, it gets pretty loud in here, so thanks for not having everything right.
Oh, no, it's okay. We want to make sure the audience could hear us as well as possible.
But I think it's absolutely amazing the amount of stuff you have. And what most people aren't seeing is there's a whole nother side of this manufacturing facility, but there's a lot of IP and new projects on this side going on that we cannot put on the camera just yet, but we're going to soon.
Sorry, folks, next time.
We're going to soon. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here with this. And
so this is Igor, who's one of our robotic technicians. And so what he's doing, what you're seeing here, is the first step of the post-processing process, which is doing a 3D scan of the object. And so what this does is allows us to make sure that the printed object exactly matches with the 3D model that it was based off of, while also creating a 3D model of the object to create tool paths for the metal CNC heads that we utilize for the milling to create the tolerances. Also, the milling can correct any small errors that might have taken place during the printing process, and as well as we talked before, about being able to create different finishes as needed.
So this robot then, as it's doing what it's doing, it'll be able to change out the heads, and there's some of them, and we'll show those in a minute. But I think you see them right there.
You can see different heads there. And so we have the ability the robot can automatically switch it out. And if we want to come over here to the control center, we can actually see what the operators are seeing
on the control panel.
So you can see overhead view here as well of the
Got it. So he's working and watching what the robot's doing, but up here is exactly what we were just watching, but from a more
exactly
horizontal.
gives you a more of a kind of a elevated view of that.
And so this is taking a complete scan of this. What does the scan do?
Yeah, so for one, again, it creates a model that then gets compared against the digital twin to make sure that what the physical object is what it was supposed to be. And then it also, instead of using the digital twin to create toolpaths, it creates a digital model of the object itself to then create the toolpaths for the CNC heads, for creating both milling tolerances, as well as then the surface finishing as desired. And where we're going with this is that we're also looking to add a attachment to allow us to do spray finishes, so like paints and stuccos, as well as fully automating the pouring of the foam insulation, which we currently takes place in another part of the factory.
So, and what we saw over there was kind of that V honeycomb looking shape. And so what you're saying is manually right now is the foam.
It's a semi-automated. So it's automated, but by kind of using.
It'll be able to print, change your head, fill it with foam, print, change your head. That's what
it'll be the printer will be printed, and then on the post-processing mill, change the head, fill with foam.
How important it is that, like, you know, folks like Igor and others, I mean, there's a lot of high tech stuff going on.
No, I mean, we've got like Igor and the rest of the team I'm fond of saying, I got the easy job. Like, my job is to talk about what we do, really help us identify where we're going to be going with the sustainability. But we've got an amazing team, both here in the U.S. as well as at our R&D facility in Moscow, who are just brilliant. Like, it's really, I mean, I can't say enough good things about our team. Like, they're the ones who have allowed us to do what we've done. I mean, our 4th birthday isn't for another like week and a half. And here we are, the world's first UL certification for a 3D printed component. First units in the state of California with 3D printed components certified under factory built housing. We're also leading efforts with ASTM and working with ASTM and ISO on their standard making. And I mean, we've got 8 of these on the ground. One just got delivered in Moore Park in Ventura County. We've got all these other ones ready to go as soon as those permits finish going through. Because as you were saying, permits are the bane of our existence. They are. As much, but that said, I do love the public sector. I have an MPA. I love you guys. We also then have a backlog of 25 plus on these mods, a backlog of 20 plus on our Mighty Homes. Like, it's amazing, and all of that is to these guys and the rest of the team. They do an amazing job. So everyone from our sales, entitlements, delivery team, all the way to our mechanical engineers, our civil engineers, our material scientists. They're just spectacular.
Well, and they have to be. They have to. What's in the Moscow office, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, so that's where so all 3 of my co-founders are originally from Russia, even though they all originally connected in Singapore. So we have our R&D, so that's where we develop our new materials, our new printing technology and everything. That's where we certify it with UL. And then when it's ready, we bring it here and deploy it for production. So we are US, we are incorporated in the United States. We are headquartered here in Oakland, but we're lucky to have an amazing team. And by having it overseas, we're able to have a much larger R&D team than we would here, while keeping our burn rate pretty low. Because we are a venture-backed startup, so burn rate is very important for our success as well.
And what are you guys seeing moving into the future with some of this? You know, because there is a burn rate here. There's a lot of technology.
100%. So we're really excited. I mean, as you've read, we announced the world's first zero net energy 3D printed community. That'll be down in Southern California. That land is going through the entitlements process right now. So we're on track to break ground end of Q4, beginning of Q1. As I mentioned, due to the unexpected tour there, we are getting ready to release an RFP for a multi-story, developing a multi-story process, and that's going to allow us to move into multi-story single-family homes, production houses, as well as multi-family space with multi-story single-family homes and multi-family space with townhouses, and then eventually low-rise apartment buildings, particularly well-suited for urban infill projects. And really be able to move into there.
It definitely makes sense, right? You're definitely going to be able to go up, and there's a lot of expansion opportunity. I mean, these are built like tanks. I keep saying it, but they really are. It was the opposite of what I was expecting, quite honestly. You know, I was expecting, the more of the whole shell being 3D printed. And when reality, when I see how you're doing this with the steel and mixing the materials together, it makes a ton of sense.
And then that's
a beautiful product.
And that's really where we're going. And one of the big differences between what we're doing and what we're seeing, and with a lot of the 3D printed concrete and other things, is that our our whole goal has always been to be a horizontal, to be a tool for the industry, to be able to play with other materials as well, and to be able to deliver our designs. But in the future, like where we're going, so with our new panel system, we've actually developed a Revit library to be able to do custom floor plans and everything.
And is that what you're using for all the design, is Revit?
We use Revit. We also use, we're pretty, Revit's our primary, but we also use others like SolidWorks and Rhino 3D, depending on which architect we're working with and all of that. But where we're going with that technology is the ability for architects and engineers and designers to work directly with our technology and design directly into a 3D printable system, or have that ability to take a 3D printed, or to take a three-dimensional design that an architect's come up with and then turn it automatically into a 3D printable system. And so that's part of our vision of being market, product, and design agnostic, production as a service platform that really helps unlock that productivity and that efficiency while also supporting a more sustainable future.
Perfect. So why don't we do this? The house is full of some.
It is. I think I can probably give our sales associate the nod if I could.
The interesting part is we've had so many people walk in that are interested in looking at the product. So the salespeople are doing a good job, but they're where we need to go.
Okay. Very excited to have
everybody on camera. But
we would love you to.
We are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And thank you again to our sponsors, Howick, for sponsoring us, as well as Forward Solutions Group. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate each and every one of you. So why don't we go ahead and we'll come around this way and we'll
so now you've seen kind of the in process what it looks like. And so this unit here we use as currently using as a display unit for customer visits for our partners. But this one actually will be going down to a customer in Mountain View, I believe, once those permits come through.
Yeah, and so what is your delivery radius on these?
I mean, we've delivered as far south as San Diego. And in truth, I mean, we'll deliver anywhere. We've got a unit going actually to Florida to Tyndall Air Force Base.
Is that a bad spot he's in right now?
He is, yeah. So you can see seamless, but the quality is amazing.
Yeah.
And even though it's not there right now, when delivered, it will have a washer and dryer. We'll have a fridge here.
Yeah, as you can see, it looks like Corian, Cambria countertops, or, something similar to that.
And, induction cooktop, microwave, dishwasher,
all through it.
So really,
go ahead. And then we have a bedroom. This is a 2-bedroom unit.
Correct. Yeah. So this is 2-bedroom. We also, for this Duo B, we also have a 1-bedroom. So on the 1-bedroom where we're standing right now would be a walk-in closet.
Got it. That wall would not be there.
Right. That wall would be about here. And so this would be a closet. That would be a bedroom.
But this is still a beautiful sized closet.
Yeah. No. And the curve works really well for closet space.
Yeah. Right. It does. It does.
It's so because a lot of people initially were like, well, how do you maximize the utility of it? And with the way our team's designed it, it works really, really well.
Yeah.
And really, so this has this built-in closet. The other bedroom will have just a wardrobe that'll provide that service. And then obviously you got your egress/natural lighting.
Yeah. Right. And
we're using Anderson windows on these.
Windows. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. And I mean, the flooring's in. You have your mate line like you normally would with the traditional, modular style built home that you're going to have. And then when this goes together, I guess it's just lag bolted together with steel.
On gets placed on site, welded to the foundation, connected, sealed, inspected, and at this point we've got it down so we can do on a 2-module. We can get that done in a day.
In a day, completely.
Yeah, like yesterday we started the delivery about 8 a.m. We were done by early afternoon.
Yeah, and what I particularly like, with the steel is this wall is finished. This is going to come together. There's no mate work.
Yeah.
There's no mate line other than insulating. It just comes together.
Yeah.
Traditional modular, you have a half a stud here, half a stud here. It comes together. The way you're doing it is, well, why do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the many advantages that steel gives us.
Yeah.
Along with also helping us avoid some of the volatility in the lumber market we've been seeing.
Yeah, and there's no movement in this, man. This is amazing. Well, why don't we walk over and see what we got going on at the computer there and see who's chiming in and say hello to a few people. And I think I'm sure there's got to be some comments and questions for sure.
For no one else, I'm sure some of the team watching this live and in the office probably have some things to say.
Yeah, everybody's going to have some stuff to say. So I just like the fact that there's so many people here walking around doing what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been one of the great things. Despite the pandemic, being construction, we're considered essential infrastructure. So we've actually been able to continue operating this whole time.
Yeah,
which has been a real lifesaver.
Sure. Well, it's got to be. So why don't we let's see who's out there. Let's go to some comments and questions there. All right, Anthony Gude, great points. The product looks amazing.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I like it. He's got the bow going. Anthony got bowed to. Anthony, really? No. All right, Evan Berger. Hi, Dave. Joining from South Lake Tahoe, California. Exciting tours you're doing in California. Thanks and enjoy. Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Andrew Seeley, G-Pod. Another great show. Team Cooper. Do you know Andrew? Do you know?
Yeah, I think Andrew, I think we've maybe met once or twice, or if not, we've definitely found ourselves in the same webinar.
You definitely got to get to Texas with Andrew for sure. All right, next comment here. Oh, hey, Jose Uritzer, how are you, sir? Solid iterative strategy. Building code compliance is a nightmare. For sure.
And that's why we're doing so much work on the regulatory side to create the space for the innovation. And the UL 34.1's actually been added as the basis for Appendix AW in the 2021 International Residential Code update. That'll be published in January. And there are efforts underway to also get a similar appendix added to the IBC. To actually, so that way we're actually helping getting 3D printing into the building code itself to really open up those possibilities.
Well, we need it. We need it in all kinds of offsite areas where we need all this.
And that's where the Advanced Building Construction Collaborative and others are doing some great work as well.
Right. All right, we got Gilbert Meyer from Honduras. Gilbert here, U.S. company factory in Honduras. Awesome. Good to see you, Gilbert.
Very cool.
Yeah. Andrew Seeley, we like to see a radius or two in a building. Yeah, with his G-Pods, they're building something very modern. It's not a 3D printed building, but they're doing some really cool modern stuff as well. Perfect. Tom Reddy, question, is it able to be used for balconies on buildings? In the current iteration,
I mean, could it be? Yes. There'll probably be some additional regulatory compliance issues to figure out, but once we move through our multi-story, certainly.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, we were talking about it, and what made me think about the balconies, and you were mentioning, you know, hey, maybe you guys should stay in our demo unit when you come out.
I know, I thought it was a great idea.
That unit right there.
Yeah, I know, I was all set for you guys to stay there, but I got shot down.
There's no plumbing, Dave. I'm like, all right, I only have 5 kids. Don't worry about it. 3 kids, 5 of us. All right, perfect. Gilbert Meyer, question, how do you introduce the fiber mat yarn into your material?
So it's so we've developed so our core IP is around the material production, and the printing technology. And so our team has developed a process for doing embedding it in real time as we're doing the printing process. So it gets laid as the material is being printed.
As the material. So just like a sewing machine, right? So it's dropping the material and the strings getting pulled through it at the same time. Okay, perfect. I should do it this way, right? So we can see I'm talking that way. Chad Davies, incredible tour. Also loving that pink safety gear.
Well, we got to make sure everyone's visible, and that if something happens, we know at a glance who's who.
Well, you know, I live on data, and I was just thinking this could be a great T-Mobile commercial. T-Mobile, you know, we're always looking for good data sponsors.
And that's what you guys are using today, right?
Well, actually, I am using T-Mobile today. That's funny. You just said we are using T-Mobile. Love it. Okay. Steve Burrows, what is the cost advantage of 3D printing over stick built?
Great question, Stephen. Thank you for joining. So right now we're able to deliver units for 15 to 40% below similar quality stick built. So significant savings already. That's only going to get better because admittedly the units we're delivering right now are type 2 semi-luxury. But with future designs, we're looking at beginning to move down market more into production housing, more into that mid-market level, and eventually into capital A affordable housing as well, likely with our multi-story offerings.
Great. Appreciate it, Steve. Thank you. Gilbert, isn't it quite expensive to scale your technology to produce very large numbers of units per month?
Not as much as you would think. One of the things that we've really focused on in developing our designs of our technology and everything is that scalability and that deployability. So we've actually designed it in a way that allows us to deploy units and deploy new factories at a relatively low cost. And that's actually something we're really excited about. Is right now we're in the process of identifying where is the second Mighty factory going to be.
Right.
Well, technically the third, since we can produce some units out of Moscow. But so we have a couple conversations going on here in the U.S. as well as Europe and elsewhere. But if anyone out there is interested in bringing Mighty buildings to your community, we would love to hear from you.
So if I heard you correctly, you used Jerry McCaughey quote: "The profit is in the process." Right?
More or less, yeah. We basically have designed, like from the beginning, we were thinking about, well, what's it going to look like to scale? And so we can scale up a factory in 3 to 6 months for less than $10 million. So it's not like we're not talking about $1 billion bespoke facility. We can set up an existing warehouse space pretty quickly for a pretty low cost, given what we're doing.
It is a low cost compared to when you see some of these big manufacturing facilities that are really going at it with the lumber. All right. Tim Sims, who would
Hey, Tim.
Tim in the house. Hey, Tim, hello from the treehouse, and he really is in a treehouse.
He is. I've seen it at least on Zoom a few times.
Excited for what you're doing for the industry. I love when runway is a top consideration day to day. Is it harder than normal to invest in apprenticeship training programs?
Not at all. It's actually something that we really focus on because it's important for us that not only are we creating good jobs, but that we're creating jobs for our local community. So we have a local hiring program. We also are in the process of deploying a pipeline for formerly incarcerated individuals. So that's something we're really excited about. We've definitely had conversations around what might even more robust apprenticeship and training program, but we've got a great head of HR, head of people ops who does a wonderful job and really leans into that because the social impact of what we're doing is just as important as the environmental impact.
Unbelievable. And you're absolutely right when it comes to that, right? Given second chances. Yep. Right, having a second chance program. We've heard that in several different factories now. Yep. The offsite construction industry as a whole is really digging in deep and saying, you know what, there's a lot of good people out there. There's a big workforce out there that's not being utilized, that can be utilized, that want to work, whether they had past issues or not. We're also streaming with a lot of the universities out there. Awesome. So we have the professors on all the time. And there's definitely tech here, and the students would be super excited to come in here and check all this stuff out. So maybe we can talk about that as well, because I'd love to, be able to showcase this to some of the major universities.
We'd love to. Yeah, and we've had the opportunity to present some classes across the United States, and for us, it's really important that, as you say, there's amazing people and there's a need for workers. So we really want to make sure that we're giving them a chance, particularly people who might not traditionally see themselves in the construction space, and not only a chance to work in construction, but a chance to work with with the latest in technology too.
Right.
Because we think that's really, really important that we're providing access to STEM training and to these skills for everyone. And so part of that's also making sure there's a pathway to promotion, and that eventually that we're giving them the skills where they can outgrow us, so then we can bring someone else in. And continue that pipeline and getting more and more well-skilled, trained people out there, because we've got a huge lack of that right now.
And with any startup and new technology, you need to build from the ground up. So having young minds, and there's, by the way, there's a lot of young minds here. I'm definitely the oldest by far, I think, in the entire building. And I'm not that old, so don't make any old jokes. All right, next comment. What are you laughing at?
Well, the thing is, I'm 40, so you're not that much older.
I'll be 51 in August here. All right, Steve Burrows, what percentage of the module we saw is 3D printed?
So currently, great question. So currently, just the back wall. So roughly 13%. Okay, I guess that's not rough, but it's about 13% of it currently on our new Mighty House product line that we'll be deploying, beginning deliveries on later this year. It's the entire wall system, so at that point, it's about 60% of the unit, I believe. Right. And again, that goes back to that iterative approach to regulatory compliance. Sure. With every version, getting more and more of it 3D printed to the extent where it makes sense. Because honestly, it may not make sense to 3D print the interior walls. So that's, again, it goes back to playing well with traditional technologies and traditional materials to optimize a design so that it meets the needs of the project.
And like we were talking about earlier, you have to start with small pieces to keep the approval process going. You build the data, you build the science, you build the, I guess the reputation with the building officials and the code officials.
Exactly.
And they get more comfortable with it, and then you layer in, because you can do a full
and the testing. Oh yeah, we have it's hiding back there, but we do have the fully printed prototype right over there.
Sure. Makes sense.
But it's again about that iterative, and it's about the timeline. I mean, sometimes like with some of these fire tests, once you get the samples ready to go, you still might be looking at a 3 to 6 month backlog before, and each test is $100,000. So it's about figuring out, again, as a startup, how do we make sure we're being good stewards of our resources to allow us to achieve our long-term goals, achieve our short-term goals, and really balancing those needs.
Right. And it gets expensive, so you gotta, obviously you want to see some returns on what you've already started too. Okay, next question. LinkedIn user doesn't come up with a name. What is the structural system of these units?
So on the mods we're delivering right now, it's red steel. On the Mighty House system, the first version, it's going to be a light gauge structural steel. On future versions, we're going to be eliminating the steel completely and using our material.
3 iterations. Did I get that right?
So far. So.
Perfect. Gilbert Meyer, congrats, guy. Love Love to see new technologies away from the traditional systems. Well, that's what it is. We need people to think differently. I don't care if it's 3D printing, panelization, hemp products, all of the different things that are starting to be looked at in our industry, and it's coming from people outside of the traditional industry, and that's what changes most industry.
Yeah.
Look at Uber and all the the taxi services.
Or Impossible Foods.
Impossible Foods, right?
Which actually they have a facility right next door.
Oh,
but no, it's interesting because one of the things too is that the way we're approaching it, we're not trying to be a Katerra and be fully vertically integrated and do everything. We really are. It's about figuring out where does it make sense for us to plug in to the existing system, existing legacy players, because there's so much brilliance already in the industry. We're just trying to really help provide a new tool to allow those players to do more with their existing resources.
Perfect. All right, next question, please. Greg Ugaldi in the house. Great tour of a game-changing concept. We had the government version of the Innovative Housing Showcase the NAHB put on with HUD. Bravo. So that was a couple of years ago, and they're still working on that. But they're going to be doing more of the innovation and housing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
A little bit, not a ton. I mean, obviously we're members of NAHB through the Building Industry Association here in the Bay Area. And then we're also involved with groups like the Housing Innovation Alliance and ABC Collaborative and others that are in this space as well.
Sure.
But yeah, no, it's definitely an exciting time, and the government seems to be starting to get it. So.
Well, they are. And was Greg on Twitch? I didn't even notice that. So Greg coming to us from Twitch.
Awesome.
Greg is the immediate past chair of National Association of Home Builders. He is the top guy out there, with doing that, and he's been in the industry a long time. He's a builder as well, and he's become a huge supporter of looking at what the future can hold and how the NAHB plays a part in those things or doesn't play a part,
and that's
depending on where it's moving to. So big shout out to Greg.
Thank you for joining, Greg. Really appreciate that. And the big fans of some of the great work that NAHB and others have been doing to really figure out what does it look like to solve these big intractable problems.
Sure. So what does the future then hold for Mighty Buildings? We already kind of got through the three concepts. We got three iterations.
We got moving into multi-story, which is going to be unlock both more opportunities in the single family space, but then also multifamily space, townhouses, low-rise apartment buildings. Additionally, expanding beyond just California. As I mentioned, we're shipping a unit to Florida here shortly, but additionally setting up additional Mighty factories in areas where we have that demand. So we're very excited about figuring out where that next one's going to be. Sure. We've got some advanced conversations both here in the U.S. as well as in overseas around where that location might end up being. So that's something we're really excited about, and continuing to grow and develop partnerships and the development we're doing with the Polari Group and Rancho Mirage, and working with more and more developers and builders, and really getting to deploy these units at scale, because I love our B2C business is awesome. I love the smile on a homeowner's face when we hand them those keys. There's nothing quite like it. But I'm also really excited about the opportunity to begin deploying units 30, 50, 500, 1,000 at a time to really be putting that dent into the housing affordability crisis and really helping people get into homes they can afford and that they love.
And that's what it's all about. And I have to tell you, I'm going to need a studio when I'm done with my tour. So
wonderful.
Maybe we can talk at Mighty Buildings about a 3D printed studio.
I would love to.
They're amazing. I mean, the sound quality, I'm like, from the sound perspective.
Oh, yeah. Acoustics are incredible.
They're amazing. For sure. All right, we got a couple more questions here, and then that's going to be, man, we're already at 56 minutes.
Oh, wow. That just flew by.
It always does. It always does. All right, LinkedIn user, not sure who that is, but so will you have your new wall system tested for seismic loads, and how will you prove its R factor for ASCE?
Yeah, so we will be doing seismic testing, conversation with some of the Shake labs here in California, as well as obviously all the computational models. In terms of R value, we're undergoing C1363 testing, ASTM C1363 testing with UL, and we're doing some additional thermal barrier testing as well. Yeah. So we're doing we have a whole host of tests that we're undergoing with Underwriters Laboratories as well as ICC to get that report.
Okay, perfect. All right, and the next one? All right, Anthony Goudet, is the engineering team working on the multi-story structural system yet?
Just about kick that process off.
Almost there. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Yeah. Like literally, we're releasing an RFP in the coming weeks. That's to engage architecture firms around that, and that's going to be the beginning of that process. So it's a very exciting time.
So what people are not seeing because of the steel walls and concrete walls is there is behind this wall back this way an entire design team, You got tables everywhere.
Yeah, we've got our entitlements team, our sales team, part of our design team here, part of the teams. Yeah, part of part of the design teams in Moscow. We've got some of our engineering team here, our automation team, our production and delivery team, and then also some of our executive team, myself and our chief operating officer. So yeah, we've got an amazing team, and yeah, we've got about 30 or 40 people behind that wall there.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're growing.
And when is all? I see they're getting ready to set up for another build. It looks like over there. What's the next build coming up?
I believe we're going to continue working on some more of these panels. This is going to probably the next sprint. But yeah, and of which of these units goes out the door next, I'm not sure. But we did just have one go out installed yesterday.
So one of the things that we want to hit on before we walk away is, the cost of these and addressing the missing middle. So why don't we touch on that a little bit and what that means to you? Yeah.
So here in California, as many are aware, housing is incredibly expensive. So you've got capital A affordable housing, which is what people think of when they think of affordable housing. And so that's usually government subsidized, only accessible to people within certain income brackets. And unfortunately, too often, the missing middle, so your teachers, your firefighters, your nurses, the people who serve communities, more and more can't afford to live in those communities. And they often don't qualify for subsidized housing. And so for us, it's really important that we're targeting them. And that's where ADUs make a great opportunity for homeowners in these communities to place one of our units there, have a rental property that can then be rented at a reasonable rate for a nurse, for a doctor. We're also seeing a lot of multi-generational living, things like that. So it does create also opportunities to create more space without having to move 20, 30 miles, 40 miles away or greater. And so that's one of the real needs there, is that there's some amazing people doing amazing work in the affordable space, capital A affordable space. And we will be getting there. But where we are now, it's really focused more on that missing middle. And it's kind of that gap that just too often is left out of the conversation.
Well, we were talking earlier, in California, you could be making $125,000 a year and still qualify for affordable housing. And that's
in the Bay Area, it's just, it's pretty insane.
It is insane. And finding land in California, you'd be hard pressed to do, hearing from you and others that we've been talking to. And so what do you do, especially when you got an aging population? You got children that haven't left the nest yet, or they've come back to the nest, especially during COVID.
Oh yeah, a lot of younger adults came back. And that's where ADUs, and that's part of why the state's embraced ADUs as a solution to that, as a great way to add density. But also that's why we want to move into multi-story and multifamily. Because being able to do vertical density is going to be crucial to really solving the issue.
And it is. And other countries are already doing that. And they're going real vertical, and I mean, housing thousands and thousands of people. So
it's also that density and tends to be more sustainable when you've got it in terms of an environmental impact. So.
Well, listen, Sam, appreciate it.
So glad you guys were able to come by and see us in person. So I had almost a year to the day.
This was a great time. You have so many people that kept walking by and back and forth,
So I thought we had it all locked in, but it's an operating facility, so such is life.
If I'm a business development person and out working, that's what I care about. I want to get people into their houses, and that's what it's all about here. So that's no issue there. All right, everybody, listen, thank you once again to Forward Solutions Group and Howick LTD. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us. We are in Oakland, California at Mighty Buildings. Sam Rubin gave us the awesomest tour.
Thank you so much, Dave.
The awesomest tour. I'm Dave Cooper. We will see you tomorrow on BS Friday with Mark Bare Naked Willie, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody. Bye now. Give him the salute. It's a salute. You got to salute.